All right, welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate. Hey! This is our monthly meeting where we get together to discuss one thing: how to use real estate as a wealth creation tool. I am your host, Dexter B. Jenkins, and we are at the studio of New England Christian Television Network in Canton under the leadership and direction of Eddie Jules. And so we thank God for them and them allowing us to come in and share with you what we're doing around real estate wealth creation. So as we always say, if this program is a blessing to you, as well as the network, we suggest that you sow a seed into that, because you guys know it takes money to pay. It takes money to do things like this. And so we want to make sure that things like this are able to continue. Got it? Now, so tonight, like you guys know, every month we get together and we have a tight flight a real estate professional from the New England area come in and speak to us. So this month is no different. This young lady is actually, she is no stranger to this group. She was, when we started doing this, we were talking off camera. We've been doing this for about 2 years. And so Madeline was one that came to one of our first presentations that we had with another person that you guys will know, Jeff. So Jeff has done a number of things with us, TV shows and all. He spoke at the Wealth Creation Summit. And so Madeline was his sort of sidekick one night. And she said, I don't want to talk yet. So she's grown since then, and I've followed her on TikTok and all that. So you know what? One of the things I'm missing, I haven't had a lot of women on, and I definitely have not had anyone from Rhode Island on. Yeah. And so I said I want to bring that on. So I'm going to, without further ado, I'm going to turn you guys over to Madeline Duarte. She is from Remax Innovations in Rhode Island. Give it up for Madeline.
Wow, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
You got to shake my hand, Madeline.
Yes, thank you so much. This is definitely an incredible experience, and I'm not a stranger to the group. I have definitely been inspired with the way that you utilize, the ability to use real estate as a tool, right. And then also instead of having it be separate from my faith, it is incorporated, and I think that is very, very empowering.
Well, that's what we're all about.
Yeah, yeah.
Try to empower folks who, we believe that that everybody who here knows I'm a pastor, and many of you know I'm a pastor. Yeah. Is that I believe that there are 4 areas that you need to be strong in: spiritually, physically, relationally, and financially. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to finances, I believe real estate is a major theme throughout the Bible.
Definitely.
And so, and I knew as a pastor that I had to get in the game physically with my people, because it's not enough for me to say, hey, go do something from the pulpit, and then, people don't do nothing. And so I had to get my hands dirty in it. And so this is part of that, is getting our hands dirty and really want to see people thrive, and then being introduced to people like yourself who can do that. So look into that camera and tell the people who don't know you a little bit about yourself. I know a little bit about you, but they don't. So who you are, how'd you get into real estate, and who you work for.
Yeah, so I am Madeline Duarte. I am a licensed real estate agent in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. I also own a property management company and an investment company, Duarte Investments and Co. I started out actually about 10 years ago as a investor, and I was really, really hungry. I was 19 and I wanted to do it so bad. I read every book that I could. But I had everything except massive courage. So I had all the things lined up, and I went to the meetings, and I got scared. I was right in the middle of college. I wanted to, have more of a stable ground. And because of that, you might look at it and say, in your mind, I wish I had did it sooner, but. Right. I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't go back and get a little bit more maturity, a little bit more faith in self, so faith in God to guide me, So it led me to where I am, and I became a realtor just over 5 years ago, and licensed and fully insured. So, you start to see why all of those things are important as you grow older, and it also drives you. So it helps remind you that. Even as bad as you want something, if you're not willing to put in the work and also have the courage to step forward into it, it's always just going to have that distance between you.
Right. Well, you said a lot there, and particularly one of the things that I always, and a lot of people who are here, a part of my congregation, so they know we talk a lot about courage. Because I believe courage is a muscle. So very much like you have your bicep and the triceps, that as you step out and do things, courage grows. And so it's always a muscle that you can cultivate. And so a lot of people see themselves as not being courageous. Like it's just because you haven't taken certain steps. And as you begin to take steps, and you know this, things that used to intimidate you 10 years ago, now you laugh at.
Yep. Yeah.
All of us got that experience, thing that terrifies you. Like, man, I can't believe I was scared of that. Well, it's because, it was just where you are at the time. And so once you begin to step out and do some things, and you become part of what we're building here, a community, because that helps you. When you got some people that you can do things with and bounce things off and realize that you're only one phone call away from an answer. Yeah. It allows you to do something. So you said that you are a realtor, you are an investor, you are a property manager. So talk about that, because one of the things that I always talk to people who are realtors, or a lot of realtors, I'm often amazed that very few of them are investors. Why do you think that is?
Because we see the downside and the upside.
Okay.
That's part of it. But, one, I think the main reason that the real estate takes the bulk of the effort, because if I have the best deals, I'm going to give them to my clients.
Got it.
I want to make sure my clients get the best deal. Something trickles over and it's made a little bit complicated, and I could probably, end up earning money based on something that someone else might be a little too difficult. Okay. And I know I can take it on. Right. Even for instance, I have a house right now. It's been on the market. It's kind of been sitting and sitting. And so I know it's
Y'all heard what she said? Yes. What did she just say?
The house has been sitting on the market.
Yeah.
So your ear should do what? Now my class is here, and I said one of the people you got to connect with is what? A realtor. Who is she?
A realtor.
Oh.
Yeah. I know. I'm so grateful.
So make sure y'all connect with her before this. All right, go ahead.
No. And that's the thing too. It's like I actually, speaking Della, she's one of my beloved clients who I am so grateful for, and I was just speaking to her about this house in particular. So it's like what we're trying to figure out is getting creative.
Okay.
Instead of it being a full-on blown investment, where now you drag in lenders, you do things like this. Where instead I go right directly to the seller and say, hey, your property's sitting. Why don't we invest some funds into it?
Gotcha.
Spruce it up. Put it, all the things that we're getting the feedback for, because that's the one thing as a realtor you get is free feedback.
Correct.
So if I have a house full of clients and they're telling me, oh well, if this was this, and if this had better lights, or the electricity was a little bit better, and I know an electrician who he just is grateful I send him a lot of business.
Right.
He's gonna be willing to do a lot more for me than he is just any person.
Correct.
So it makes it a little bit easier for me to help spruce up the house, and then we put it back on the market, add some value, and then it gets the seller some value without coming right out of pocket.
Right. But I think what you're speaking to is, and what we talk about a lot, is the creativity that you need to add. And I think that a lot of people don't, I don't like you thinking outside the box, but everybody understands. People don't think outside the box. And really, as a real estate investor, we run to what other folks run from.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so when you see, when I first started doing this and I started going to the houses with cat pee and mice poop and stuff like that, I'm like, everybody like, ugh. And I'm like, no, that's money. You know? And so that's how you and I really have to be thinking, is that our job is to take things that are ugly and make them pretty. Now, when we make them pretty, like Madeline was saying, we get the bigger check because of what we have done, but the willingness has to be there, and I always, now this is just my belief, is that anything that's worthwhile is going to be a little headache. Yeah.
They say the worse it smells, the better the opportunity.
Okay.
So if you walk in a house and it just hits you, as soon as it hits you, just transmute that into opportunity.
There's that dollars, right. So you start out at 19. Now you're a realtor and an investor. Talk about the property management side, because that is a big part of one of the reasons why I believe a lot of people don't invest. Yeah. They don't want to be landlords per se. And so how would they find someone like yourself? What are they looking for? So walk us through that process.
Yeah. So when I first had started out, I was very was very interested in working a lot with first-time home buyers, and it just kind of, you fall into that, especially
Okay.
when you start out as a new, just like you would as a first-time home buyer. Your first process is going to be buying your first house. As a realtor, first-time home buyers are usually your first clients. And so over time, I realized that, I've sold over 120 homes now. And
Watch out now.
Yeah,
How many houses she sold?
120.
All right. Okay. All right. That's a few.
Yeah.
That's a few. All right.
Yeah. And you start to realize what you're good at and then what people need the most. And it really dawned on me that I was setting up a lot of resources for first-time investors.
Okay.
And when you have first-time investors, now you're working more with purpose because we're building that, again, like you said, community. So if I have a group of first-time investors that can rely on one another, and they also can rely on me for the services that I provide, which is property management or setting up systems that make it a lot easier for them to
Right.
manage their properties.
Right.
It is long-term growth.
Right. And so because I think we talk a lot about partnerships and making sure that that you can't do this alone.
Yeah.
It's impossible. And I always say real estate is probably the ultimate profession based off of the amount of people who get paid when you look at a transaction.
27 people are involved on average.
Yeah, 27. Okay, so I know the number. I know a bunch of them. So on average, 27 people are involved in a real estate transaction, and so everyone is eating off that. And so that's part of your team. And I think, and even me, because I think my wife and I are at a stage where we're looking for property managers. Because I want to focus more on building my business and not necessarily taking phone calls about whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. What would I be looking for if I'm looking to hire someone like yourself?
Yeah. I say too, one thing that I've found is the most reassuring and confidence building in property management is your gut feeling. Like, your gut feeling is 10 times stronger than any, book you could read,
Right.
any document, any website.
You don't feel good, don't do it.
As soon as you walk in,
Yeah, true.
when you're first dealing with whether it's property managers or tenants, or
Yeah.
right away who's going to be your problem child. What the problems might be ahead of time, and a lot of the times we kind of psych ourselves out and say, "Oh no, I don't have to worry about that." You probably want to worry about it now, because then by the time it gets to where it's a worry, you don't want to, it to end up being too much. So I think a lot of the times what I've learned too is that in the same sense, not everything has to be a worry, because as long as you
Okay.
are preparing ahead of time, so you want to find someone that is going to be strict when it comes to dates, times, and information. You want them to know more than you know, because
Okay.
then you feed off of that.
Correct.
And then also someone who has the resources and the connections, because what I learned is in the beginning, I was reaching out for people, and then they're just making 2 or 3 phone calls and making things happen. So I'm like,
Right.
I want to be that person.
need to
I want
do
to be
that,
the person who makes 2 or 3 phone calls and then something
stuff
just
happens.
happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And so once I found that base, that's where I think the bulk of my business relies on, is that I don't have to be 10 places at once
Right.
in order to scale up. And I don't want my clients to ever feel like they have to be 10
Got it.
places at once.
Got it.
We're a community of resources that rely on one another.
Right. And the old saying is what is it? Your net worth is tied into your network.
Work, yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yes.
who do you know, and how many people you can make a phone call with, or somebody who knows somebody. And I think that is the reassuring piece of what we do, is that despite how big you think a transaction is, because you guys have heard me say this all the time, the biggest mistake most people make is that they never get started.
Yeah.
Biggest mistake, because any mistake outside of that you can recover from. But the mistake of never doing it, you can't. Got it?
Yeah.
And so many people never get started because they never run into a Madeline who can hold their hand and say, hey, look, because I want you to talk about Della later in a few seconds. But, hold somebody's hands through the process all the way until they get to the closing table. Then once they get to the closing table, I'm going to be there with you on the other side as you're dealing with all the other things that come with, being a real estate entrepreneur and a real estate wealth creator. So I think the more that people can get that, what I call the power of belief, it allows them to move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the not fearing making a mistake.
Right.
Because everyone's going to make mistakes from the tenants up to you as investors. It's inevitable, but you have to fail forward. And so when you're in business with anyone that isn't afraid to make a mistake, then the more mistakes you make, the more you're going to grow.
Right.
You know.
So, you are in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Okay, which is not a big state, so you could pretty much cover the whole state probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Talk about some areas that we should be looking at for investing. Now, I got a couple areas that I'm thinking because my wife and I vacation there every now and then. So talk about maybe from a multifamily perspective.
Yep.
But then also talk about from a maybe vacation
Yeah.
perspective, because there are a lot of great areas of vacation spots in Rhode Island. So talk about those for a little bit.
Yeah, there's actually, so what I've learned too is, a lot of people watch the numbers of the market. I think what happens is it is beneficial and it is helpful, but realistically watching what is going on a lot in the politics, so it's going on a lot in community building, even especially, so East Providence right now is a very, very prominent area.
Now, question: what would be considered East Providence? Because I see listings all the time like East Providence.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what that is.
So there's East Providence, North Providence, and Providence.
Okay.
And it does get confusing, but Providence is the largest. It's our capital. It's the main city. And what's happening is because the prices are skyrocketing so high,
Right.
people are moving out to the outskirts.
Okay, got it.
And so even though I would say, like, one reason why I mentioned East Providence is because
Okay.
you mentioned vacationing.
Right.
They're going to be turning East Providence into a new beach. So it's on a 10-year plan with Narragansett Bay. They're right now the
beautiful
prices
area,
are,
too.
yeah, it is.
area.
It's building up and building up. So I actually just finished with a client of mine who's a builder. We just finished 2 condos on the water, and they're the highest selling condos in that area for a while because they're right on the water, and it's about less than a half a mile from where they're gonna do the beach entrance.
Okay.
And so it's exciting on that aspect, especially for the new owners, because their property value is going to skyrocket.
Exactly.
The funny thing about that is right now they just redid the bridge there. And so it really is an island right now because you can't get off of it. So we're waiting. As soon as that bridge is done and the beach is built, literally, it's a beautiful area though, and it's a hidden gem somewhat. Also, West Warwick is a very
I
right now.
stuff like that a lot of times lately from West Warwick.
Yeah, because specifically they have a lot of multifamilies and it's spread out. It's a very advantageous area because recently, yes, the property values have increased, but they're still moderately low in comparison,
Right.
where you can find a multifamily 3 units under 500,000, where they're going above like almost to 600,000 right now in Providence, on average.
So we got East Providence is on the come up, West Warwick is on the come up. Where else
Yeah.
should we be looking?
Let's see. They're gonna be doing another aspect too, and this is something that over time you'll want to work with a realtor to do, is they're changing the regulations on commercial units, and I think that that's going to be a very, very prominent thing going forward all over the board, not just in any area, but if you see commercial buildings that are kind of run down, you're going to be turning them into residential because we're in a housing crisis pretty much. We're about 200,000 houses, just specifically in Rhode Island,
Right.
about 200,000 houses behind what we actually need. So having that information, it really helps guide you to make the best decisions.
So, because I'm always up 95 going to see him. I got some property in New Haven, so I'm always up and down there.
Yeah.
And as I'm driving down 95, I'm always see these big industrial buildings.
Yes.
So is that what you're talking about when they're converting those into, or what is planned for those things?
Those and even like office buildings.
Okay.
When you see them and there's a large parking lot and there's a nice door, that could be made into a condo, one units, or even, I'll see a lot of like office buildings, and then they'll have they're kind of set back. You could probably get 3 or 4 studio apartments in there, and the city is kind of just passing the regulations because they're dealing with this housing shortage. They'd rather have someone who's able to do it
Correct.
than to not. Oh, and also additional dwelling units. So
ADUs,
yeah, so even having single families, we're seeing that a huge opportunity in those right now. Even with multifamilies, like right now you'll see 2 units, and even if you're running the numbers, it might be kind of tight. But if you have a large garage in the back, you can
Right.
pay, a contractor, work with him piece by piece, and then have that built out, and now you have a 3rd unit. I've helped 2 or 3 clients do that as well, and they're earning the surplus on the
Because
additional
of-
dwelling unit.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's just all about getting creative and
Yeah, and that's what, as you're talking, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, because I think average real estate investors can go and buy something, but if we want to be exceptional, you have to
Yes.
begin to think like, is there a garage? Is there ADUs? There's, I don't know, basements are big down there, but
Yeah.
around here basements are big. In Boston, pretty much doing the same thing. They're
Yeah.
letting a lot of things go because of a housing crunch. Then they also got the immigrants. So some of that's causing some of that. Not only, I think that's throughout New England. Same thing in New
Yeah.
Haven. They're hearing the same things there. So.
And I think it's more advantageous to focus on things like that than it is to do what they're trying to implement are like rent caps and things like
Yeah,
that. Because
exactly.
understood that rent is raising, but expenses are raising.
Right.
So
You have to match them up.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I look at it from the point of view. I don't think that the price of rent is the problem. I think it's the fact that our salaries aren't raising as quickly.
100%.
So it's kind of like getting mad at the cow because it's not producing enough milk instead of just saying that maybe the farmer needs to feed it a little more.
That's good. Well, and that's what we talk about in our group we talk about at the summit is one of the things I tell people is you've got to decide that you're going to become wealthy.
Yeah.
That the days of you being a middle class person or whatever, them days are over. You got this, I'm going for it. And real estate is going to be one of the tools that you're going to use in order to make that happen.
Yeah.
Let's open up the floor for questions. Let's give you guys a lot to think about. So any question? Who has the microphone? Do we not know microphone? Okay. So just say question loud enough.
You were talking about, East Providence, West Warwick. What about Seacon? Is that?
Yeah, so that is right. That's actually in Massachusetts, but it is a great area. Seekonk, and I'm learning a lot right now about Springfield as well in Massachusetts. It's an area that is increasing in value. I think another place too, as well in the past that maybe a year or 2 ago when they had started up everything with the train, Pawtucket, Central Falls.
Right.
But what we're seeing now is, yes, their prices though, as soon as that train was built, it was like the highest selling multifamily was sold in Pawtucket at just over like $780,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
In Pawtucket, if you drive down 95, you just see tons of multis.
Yeah.
Tons of them.
Yeah. It's a high rental area too. High rental income, high rental pricing. So I think the units are probably going, like 3 units are probably doing like 21, 22, which
Nice.
is high for Rhode Island, honestly. Yeah.
And you said something about Narragansett. I'm sorry, honey. Excuse me. You had said something about Narragansett Bay.
Yes, so the Narragansett Bay is one of the water commissions. They do the clearing of like a lot of our ocean areas because it technically is a island, except for the side that touches Mass and Connecticut. We're surrounded by the ocean all around. Some of the areas though aren't clean enough to swim in or to use. And in that specific area in Riverside, they did a lot of dumping, and then they also had areas where that used to be the ports where things came in.
Got it.
And so it takes about 5 to 10 years to clean it. So Narragansett Bay is working with East Providence and the city now to clean that water and like renew it as it sits there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but Narragansett as well is a college
beautiful
area.
Yeah.
One of the things that I will say is right like in between URI and South Kingston, and then you'll see like a lot of the larger beaches like Scarborough, which is usually on the news a lot because that's our largest. I think that's our largest beach, and they're trying to change regulations there because they have a law where more than 5 people can't live in a house, and the reason why they do that because they don't want the like investors to come in and then rent the houses down there by room. They want more local
Got it.
living. So because of the housing crisis is being fought, and I will let you guys know as soon as it passes, because that is a phenomenal area to invest in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
Any other questions out there?
I'll-
I have a question. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information.
I'm happy to.
So, what's the requirement to be licensed in Rhode Island if you have a mass real estate license?
They're actually reciprocal. So what I do is I'm actually licensed in Mass first, and then I reciprocal to Rhode Island. So it's a matter of documentation and formation, but I felt it was beneficial to have both, especially because, as you said, Rhode Island's a smaller place. And you don't want to just be a big fish in a small pond. You want to be a big fish in a couple small ponds.
Watch out, man.
So I got licensed in Massachusetts and then reciprocal to Rhode Island. But I'll send everyone my information, and I can send you it explains exactly how to do it, but it's just some paper pushing. Yeah, definitely.
Again, thank you for sharing your wealth of information. My question relates to, like, you wear so many hats in real estate. In terms of your investing career or business, how have you gone about building your team, and how has that changed over time?
Yeah, I always feel so. I say, God is able to help you when you show up. The person who shows up is the person that you know is committed, and then you can see from there what they're able to help with and what actually works. Because a lot of the times, I think my thing was I wanted to do everything, so I tried to take on everything. And I had to realize that one, delegation is a very strong aspect of scaling,
Right.
but also feeling the ability to trust. You can't trust that everyone is gonna do everything perfectly, but
'Cause
you
they're
can
not.
trust. Yeah.
They're not.
But you can trust the fact that if they show up and they continue to show up, then they're probably gonna find a way to make it work just like you would. And that was a big part of growth for me, because I didn't want to trust anybody. I wanted to do everything, even if it meant not doing it well. And once I got over the aspect of like, well, you're not doing it right, so pass some things out. So it really is like communication and being honest with yourself and again, the gut feeling. Can I really trust this person to show up and do what they need to do? Or is it just something that is I can do, or is it something that I can't do anymore because
Right.
it's too much?
And that's a key skill, because sometimes, I always talk about HABU, highest and best use.
Yeah.
What is your highest and best use? So you may be able to do something. And one of the things, because this is also, we talk real estate, but this is also a financial literacy and really getting you how to think right. And a lot of times we're doing $20 an hour work, and you're worth $1,000 or $2,000 an hour. And so why not pay that person $20 and you can stay focused on the things that are going to build your business,
Yep.
vision, direction, making connections, going to meetings like this, because that's your job is to make it rain, right? So if your job is to make it rain, you got to have people who are underneath you catching the rain in the bucket,
Yeah.
And so and that comes down to, like you said, your trust and all that. Of your team, and picking people and recognize that people are going to make mistakes, and you're going to have to change people out from time to time. That and it's the people you started with may not grow with you.
Yeah.
Which sometimes can be difficult because they are at a certain level and just can't go with you to that next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that about making it rain too. I realized a while ago, it was that line between, when you get into this, it gets glorified a lot. Oh, hey, you're gonna make a lot of money as long as you work hard and you do this. And I think that was the guiding force at 19. And it was the thing,
Right.
It was the thing that I realized was the difference when I came back as a 25, 26-year-old. I started understanding, well, if I do this and I create the opportunity to have purpose, as opposed to, now I'm creating jobs within my community.
Right.
Now people are relying on me to have what, what they need in order to build their wealth and to build those opportunities. And that felt so much more authentic.
Exactly. Yeah, because it really becomes a place of service.
Yeah.
We talk about profit because you have to have a profit to stay in business. But we talk about you have to do well. You can do good as you're doing well.
Yeah.
And you need both, because if you're not doing well financially, you ain't in business long enough to do good.
Yeah.
And so you got to have both of those going. But I was reading a book by his name is Mark Lane. Just started reading it, and he was talking about the same thing you were talking about, the transition he made when he first started. He just wanted to make money, and I always want to make money. But then as you begin to grow and mature, you recognize that. Really, you're in the problem solving business. This, you are solving problems, and as you solve people's problems, your check is on the other side of that.
Yeah.
My saying is always just the bigger the problem you solve, the bigger the check you make.
Yeah.
Small problem, small check. Big problem, big check.
Yeah.
That's the formula. So you really have to choose which side you want to be on. But when you really begin to do some of the things that you're doing and some of the things people in this room are doing, and you're recognizing you're actually housing people and you're giving jobs and things of that nature, it really is a gratifying feeling.
In addition, what we were saying earlier about the property management too, and you were saying like it being a service, this goes back to what we were saying about knowing like how to move forward with property managers, or even sometimes dealing with like any tenant issues. It's like I'm providing a service as a real estate agent, but as a property manager, I'm providing a service. But as an investor and as a property owner, you are also providing 100%. A service. And so when you are providing that service, I try to think of everything in the sense of like a hotel. Right. You gotta have that. Like, you don't go and meet the owner of the hotel.
Right.
You don't. Every time you
know
go
who Mr. Hilton is.
Exactly. You don't get to conversate with him all the time.
Right.
So reminding myself, and then also reminding my clients and my investors that you gotta be Mr. Hilton.
Right.
You gotta understand that this is a service you're earning, not a direct connection to just me.
Right. Now, question. Talk about that, because any more questions out there? I think Janelle have one, and then we'll talk about that, because y'all remind me to ask this question of Madeline. Yeah. It's about the people who have bleeding hearts.
Oh. Hi.
My questions will be really quick. The first is just trying to get an example of the range of rents that, you talked about Rhode Island and being able to get a multifamily under $500K, which seems unheard of in Boston. Yeah. But what kind of rents do those then generate? Was the first question. And my second question is just about, I would love to have property on the waterfront, but thinking about climate change, all of the storms that are coming through, how do you invest and prepare for the potential of damage to your property?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that comes to mind, insurance.
I'm thinking that.
The beauty of real estate too, I know for a long time it comes from the thought that you want to make sure that you make the right decision, and it feels overwhelming because you want to think about the 30-year mortgage, and if I make this decision now, in 30 years, will I made the right decision? But sometimes you will, sometimes you won't, and that's just the truth. There's going to be so many things that are out of your control, but the beauty of it is we are in a real estate market where houses are selling every single day. So if you feel like in 2 years, 3 years, I'm starting to notice the water coming up a little bit. I'm starting to notice this property's getting a little too much damage. You just sell it. Just get rid of it, and then you decide, okay, well, I'll take the funds that I put into it, and then I'll reinvest it into somewhere else or something else, because there'll always be another opportunity. And so it's just keeping your hands in the game, keeping your eyes on what's happening, because there'll never be a wrong decision that you can't make a better decision. Okay. Every opportunity is going to create something better. So, yeah, the waterfront is beautiful. I love East Providence for that. I'm actually looking for something for myself in East Providence just for that simple reason. And knowing what I know now, that in 3 years it'll be super beneficial. But it took probably a year of learning about that
Right.
to know that, and pulling like money out of other things that probably didn't go well, or some things that went really well, and then you reinvest it into something that you can make also go well too.
No, I would make sure you got your question answered, Janelle?
Oh, the rents, yes. Also, so for about a 1 bedroom, there is, I would say, on the lower end, things that aren't updated, 1,100. Things that are, we're going into 15, 16 in apartment complexes with everything that's included except for like, gas and electric, 17. We have 2 bedrooms, anywhere from, I haven't really seen many that are under 1,500 into 16 and 1,700. Like I have one in Cranston that rented around, two bedroom, 1,750. I just listed a 3 bedroom in Cranston, 2,500, and that's a really, really large apartment, and it's near the water in Cranston. So, I had another agent in our office. He rented a 3 bedroom in his own multi for 19. So on average, I'd say anywhere from 18 to 22, and like if it's a really larger unit, like 4 bedrooms, probably 25, something like that. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Space. A lot of people are looking into Woonsocket. Woonsocket has huge units, and they're getting really high rents because we're seeing a lot of people have 3 or more children, and then if they're renting, where do you go?
Right.
Everyone's trying to split the units in half, but larger units are getting a high rent just above what the average is because they're getting assistance, they're getting a lot more opportunity based in having the space.
Okay. And are you seeing a lot of like Section 8 in Rhode Island?
Yeah, they just opened it back up and increased the funds.
Okay.
I think it's a great program. It just goes back to utilizing your gut feeling. So, there's also a lot of different programs. I have one with DCYF right now. You can't have it be advertised, but they're paying up to $6,500 to rehouse people in units. So
What is DCYF?
it's like Child Protective Services.
Okay.
And then there's also Crossroads in Rhode Island. They do a year-long program with people and helping them to restore their life. So they work with them for a year, and then if you're an investor or owner of a property, they'll come in and check out the house and help give you funds to like remodel if it needs anything, and then they pay for their rent for a year in full. And at any point, if they break the lease or any opportunity, so you're not missing any inability to protect yourself or your property. It just gives you the opportunity to help in the same sense. So there's a lot of programs, not just Section 8, that I think are really, really useful, that I don't think that there's enough information out there about.
Right.
So I try to share that as much as
Exactly.
possible.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, because we've had 2 people we know, actually one, well, we've not here, but in New Haven, we have 2 Section 8 tenants, and then a friend of ours who's actually been here a few times. She's helping homeless. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got a program. She has 2 of her units, or 2 houses that she's rented out that are helping the homeless out. She's getting pretty good per room, So there are a lot of ways. So if we're talking about exit strategy or monetizing strategies. It's not necessarily always the traditional way. There's a bunch of programs that we could tap into. Traveling nurse is another one. So
it's a really lucrative program.
Yeah, exactly. Those type of things, and so, and in particular, nowadays maybe because interest rates are higher, and so you're looking for more ways to cash flow, and so maybe you do a mixture of you have your regular units, but then you have some other things like some things we're talking about, which will raise your profits coming in, your revenue. So.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, mention you were saying about the bleeding hearts.
Yeah. I'm about to say that.
Because we're going to get into it now.
Not because I actually shot a video today. Y'all follow my YouTube channel? Some of y'all do. If you don't, go to my YouTube channel. But anyway, we had a friend of ours who has a student. He runs a teacher program like this, but he had a student who had a person had a 4-family in Washington, D.C., and the guy said, I'll sell it to you for about $500,000, which is unheard of.
Wow.
Because D.C. is like Boston, high market.
Yeah.
But they had three 3 units in there, and the tenants were not paying, and he didn't want to put them out. He was saying that, you know, it's against God's will to put people out and such and such and such. And so I've run across this a number of times where there are people who have a hard time, and you said it earlier, holding the line on their assets, because that's what it is. And my personal opinion is you're really doing them a disservice by not making them perform.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, because you do this all the time where you have to
Yeah.
make an adjustment and change and throw folk out.
Yeah, I think I also see often where a lot of the times people have you almost look at things where it's you that's doing this, and one of the hugest things that we see with the housing crisis is it's not just income, and it's not just being, you know, like a crappy landlord comes in and then they just don't want to fix anything, and now the person didn't pay, and then now they're getting evicted. It really is like this gap in time where someone is paying $900 for 20 years,
Right.
or, you know, $600 for 20 years. There's no growth in that. You know, if you don't increase the rents, if you don't continue to structure things to move forward, then you might be holding them back from, like you said, performing at their best or being their best. And then you also hold yourself back, because now when you go to, you know, have the exit strategy, then it's like they have nowhere to go, and they're looking at you like, well, I'm relying on you, because this is a house I've been in 20 years. I
Right.
paid this mortgage. Now I'm owed this, and I'm entitled to this.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
it's almost like you set them up to be
For
coddled.
failure.
So
Yeah, exactly.
you know, a lot of the times we feel like it's something that you know, we put ourselves in their shoes instead of putting, you know, understanding that the help that you're giving already is providing the service. And the service really is more than enough of having the home to live in.
Right.
You know, so understanding that. And also, too, you don't want to stunt your own growth in order to, you know, like, make things easier on someone else or easier on someone else's finances, you know, unless you got it like that. You want, you know, if you want to do that, that's okay too, but it's not the most advantageous thing to do.
Well, and even when you start talking about going to refinance and do things financially, banks look at that. You know,
Yeah.
they're looking at, okay, you haven't made the changes and adjustments that you need to make financially, and so now when you go to refinance or go do something, the numbers are off. You know, and so it behooves you to treat this, as my wife said, this is a business. Y'all heard what I said?
Yeah.
What is this, y'all?
Yeah.
It's a business. Now, you can be, you know, because many of us are faith people, you know, so you can do it, be godly in your business dealings and be firm and all that, but it's a stewardship responsibility we have.
Yeah. And it's also understanding, because just like it goes back to the hotel, if you are in a hotel and you don't pay for the next night,
They put you behind now.
they're not asking. They're not even asking you to pay now. It's just like, no, you've got to go.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing else to discuss.
Right.
And that conversation is not even coming from Mr. Hilton. He sent 3 or 4 other people to tell you.
You're right.
And you know, you can't pay after the fact either.
Right. Right.
And so I look at it as, you know, I think a lot of the times, because of the climate that it's been with housing for so long, you know, there are laws in place to protect people, but in the same sense, there are also laws in place to protect you.
Right.
And so don't forget that aspect too. You know, I think because we're earning money on it, and we look at it like that, we think that maybe there's like something that we could do, but 9 times out of 10, you're doing the most that you can, and that's all you have to do.
Right. And what we talk about, because Massachusetts is a little bit different than Rhode Island as far as, just my opinion, I think Massachusetts is very tenant friendly,
Yeah.
whereas Rhode Island, I don't know much about that. So talk about that.
Yeah, Rhode Island is definitely more landlord friendly. I don't think that after COVID, a couple of things changed. They're more lenient, especially when it comes to like disabled or elderly. You know, that's gonna be across the board nationally, which is expected, of course. But as far as, you know, tenants and non-payment, I had a client in Massachusetts. She dealt with something for 6 months. I had a client in Rhode Island dealt with the same issue, maybe 2 or 3 months process.
Right.
Yeah. The thing is, non-payment is always going to bring you 10 times further than anything else in Rhode Island. Like, I don't know what it is. I always say, like, it goes back to, like, the times when the mafia was running the city. And this is public knowledge. You can look it up. But all you got to say is they weren't paying me, and they're like, nope, he's out. Yeah.
Yeah. You better pay Vinny.
You could be like, they tore up the property. Like,
Yeah,
like they didn't pay me. Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah. Any more questions out there? No? Okay, we'll keep talking. Now this is what I want to talk to you about also, this, as we're thinking about our question, and many of them I already got. How's it as a woman doing all the things that you do? As a realtor or agent, as a property manager, and also as an investor, because I think a lot of times women sell themselves short, and they don't understand the power that they have to do some of these things. So talk to our sisters out there.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting. You mentioned that. I had this conversation with one of my clients who's a builder as well, and he's my family as well too. And I was talking to him saying, like, I'm glad that there's someone that I can trust and, like, who I feel like protected and I can stand. He's like, why do you need that? He's like, and I'm like, well, I'm a woman in this. And he's like, so? And I think in my mind, I always think, well, everyone notices that I'm a woman doing this, and yes, trust me, it is noted, but it doesn't mean that anyone else thinks that there's a lack in what you can do. If in anything, they're thinking, wow, she is strong if she's doing this, and she has the wherewithal and the ability. Because I look back and I think, who is there a person I can have a conversation with who's been doing this 20, 30 years and as a woman or a woman of color, and maybe I can get some advice from? And I don't really have many.
Okay.
But I also know that in 20 years, there'll be little girls that need me. And you also want to be the person that the little girls in your family, in your city, that can come to, in your church, that they can come to and say, hey, I'm looking to get started in this. How do I get started? And you can guide them and let them know. But if we don't take the opportunity, how can we?
And I think entrepreneurship levels the playing field. Mm-hmm. We can say, oh, women get paid this one. Well, if you sell a house and this person says, dude, the commission is the commission. The flip is the flip. So I believe more women should go into sales and marketing and the stuff that we're talking about you guys doing, because I think that you guys are phenomenal. And I just know for me dealing with, I don't know, I'm more relaxed when I deal with a woman as opposed to a man.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but But if I'm dealing with Madeline versus just say John Henry, even though John Henry's a friend of mine, just say I didn't know John Henry. For some reason, I'm more relaxed with you as opposed to with him. Now, over time that may happen, but I just feel that it's a great career for women to get into. And I think more, and I would say this, I tell you guys this all the time too. I think more of them should get their licensed and be an investor with that. Because I think it just opens more doors for you.
Yeah. And also at the bare minimum, even having the understanding that who you are does not prevent you from what you desire and what you want to do. When I first was 19 and I went in those meetings, I was the youngest, the blackest, the smallest. I was looking around and nobody looked like me. And, they're having these conversations, and I literally had to have a conversation with myself and say, it's okay. And you're welcome and entitled to be here. Or if not, they would have stopped you at the door.
Right.
But they didn't. And now you're in here, and so you got to act like it. You got to show up as that, and you have to show your perspective. One of the things that I really, really know and have seen for sure is that there is someone out there that is looking for your perspective.
100%.
And they might not feel comfortable, just like you said, going to someone else. But when they meet you, it all just makes sense. And they might have tried with 5 other people, and it was like, oh, no, I'm not getting it. And then they talk to you, and it's like, wow, that made perfect sense. And it's not because you have some special magic. You might have just had an experience with one of your children one time where, you were trying to talk to them and they didn't have the ability to get it, and you sat with them and Johnny has how many apples? You ask them over and over again, and then you're really able to click and have them learn something, whereas someone else might not have that ability. Right. And so we all have our individual gifts, and when you show up in your authenticity, it will automatically, God will bring those people right to you.
Correct. Last question I want to add. You know, she's going to be here after this too. Just one, because this I want to get this on camera. Huh? Do that okay. Could be because Madeline is very active on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know whether I just see your TikTok calling. So talk to them, because I'm always trying to get them. Talk about the power of social media and marketing. So talk about that.
And that's funny too. I'm active on TikTok, but I'm really just documenting what I do.
Correct.
And
100%.
it goes back to what I was just saying about, someone needs your perspective. One thing that I've learned about not only TikTok, Instagram, anything, is you can be exactly who you are, show up, and there's going to be 100,000 people that want to see it. And it's just because we're always used to not having all of this information that is like driven on this phone, and we just see our community around us, and then we might stick out like I've always stuck out like a sore thumb, like, and I was like, okay, that's just is who I am. Right. I'm me. But then you go on here and it's like, wow, there are other people that collect rocks. This is awesome. And you look at it and you realize, well, if I'm just showing up and being myself, well, and these other people are showing up and being themselves, then I'm not alone. Right. And so I always say documentation, right. And it takes a whole lot of pressure off of trying to plan True. And shoot marketing and like this is an official setup. This is because this is a professional, and what he's doing is providing you guys with like documented information. But you don't have to have a TV setup in order to document your process and what you're going through, because your process is real. Your process is just as real as anything else. Correct. And then it grows from there. Right. So like I'm sure that when you first started, you didn't have like this TV setup. You had a camera and then some information.
Hi, this is Dexter B. Jenkins. I'm over here in Quincy. I'm over here in Hyde Park. I'm over here, and I still do that.
Then you guys get to grow and
here.
So
I think that's the easiest way, and so you build a brand that way.
Yeah.
Just by being to your word I've heard you use 3 or 4 times now is authentic.
Yeah.
So you're authentically, hey, I'm over here in Brockton. I'm over here such and such. I'm reading a book and I say, hey, this is what I'm reading. So I think we overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
But I've come to understand, and I just turned 56 a couple days ago.
Oh, happy birthday!
Thank you. And I'm old school, meaning you don't even know where I'm at. If I'm out with my wife, you ain't gonna know. Yeah. We on vacation, you ain't gonna know we came back from vacation. You ain't gonna know that. But I recognize that in order to be relevant, and I don't show a lot of my personal stuff, but I do share my church stuff as well as my business stuff, that I have to get out there. Mm-hmm. And the amount of people who say, hey, I saw you on YouTube. Hey, I saw you on TikTok. Hey, I saw you on such and such. Hey, I saw you on that. And so what that does is, because we didn't really get into it tonight, but you're talking about bringing in partners for funding, now they begin to see you as a real estate entrepreneur, as a real estate wealth creator. And so what you do, and actually you've even shared some of my stuff as I put on there, I saw you sharing, so thank you for that, is that it's extremely important to come out your comfort zone with that.
Yeah.
Because let me help you out with this. Nobody likes how they look. Nobody likes how they sound. Oh, my hair is everybody. You going bald, fat. You too dark. You too light. Your lips too big. Your lips too. It doesn't matter. Did you hear what I just said? It doesn't matter. Nobody likes their voice.
Yeah.
Because it's what we use to and I'm just gonna be spiritual. The devil used that to hold you back.
Yeah.
As opposed, you say, you know what? I'm 56 years old. See me, love me. This is Dexter. At this point, you got to get comfortable with who you are and who you are on your own skin. And there's some things that I want to do. And me being so self-centered and so self-conscious is holding me back from helping the people that God's called me to help. And so I just think that us putting ourselves out there more than we have put, and some of you already are doing that. But I'm really trying to push you to do more of that, because it's going to brand you in a way that will give you the edge out here as you're doing this.
Yeah. And the other side of it, where you're saying that, nobody likes it, ironically, on TikTok, you'll find there's plenty of people that'll love it. There's a lid for every pot.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's too like
It's funny.
I watched a TikTok video, and there was this woman who said, she had a strained relationship with her mother. So she goes on TikTok and she watches videos of women that are motherly or nurturing.
Got it.
And then you look at it like
True.
there are so many, and it's like, wow, that's interesting. Like, you would have never think that there's a whole category for that, but someone out there needs it.
Well, it's funny. There's a woman that I listen to, who I would never listen to normally, but she's like a Mima.
Right.
And I listen to her, I'm like, who's Mima? And she's always singing and cooking.
Yep.
And I'm like, them some good biscuits, boy, because she be singing and cooking too, Jay. I said, ooh, geez, them some good biscuits. I'm like, who Mima is this? And so there, is ways that you can connect with people.
Yeah.
Over a lot of different things. We're running out of time. Tell them how, tell the audience and we got 5 minutes? Okay, well, let's take Janelle's question, then we'll do that.
I always have no questions. So mine is about short-term rentals versus long-term, and when how to make the decisions of what to put in your portfolio or your collection of assets.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like because of the regulations changing so much with short term, whatever you do invest in that short term, you also want to have either a strategy to get out of it after if it's not working out and liquidate quickly, or a long-term aspect of it as well.
Got it.
And looking at things from multiple perspectives, because I know I had clients that were interested in looking just for Airbnbs that they could just get, set up and right into quickly. And I would tell them, I'm not going to help you with that, because we're in a housing crisis. And if I set you up with 20 Airbnbs that could have been apartments for people, how do I look at myself and do that?
Got it.
Not only that, if you want to do units, and then you turn some in short term, see how it goes, and then you see which properties perform better and utilize those, and then the rest are rentals. Then okay, let's work on that. But and what was ironic, right smack dab then, Rhode Island started meeting and putting caps on how many Airbnbs you can have, and then they started changing the permit. You need a permit to do it, and so.
And the short-term business is totally different. It's more of, in my opinion, it's more of a hospitality business.
Yes.
And so if you don't want to turn things over and all, it's just a different vibe.
Yeah, and it's not guaranteed, and so you could have a great unit with a great aspect to it, but if you don't have the capital to back it once it's if it's not performing the way that you need it to, you have to quickly liquidate. And then that becomes overwhelming, and it might discourage you. And so I think that if you have a unit that maybe it's like you're not getting the best rent, you're kind of dealing with some tough tenants, then you might say, you know what, let me see how this performs short term. I'll give it a theme and make it into a good investment. But other than that, I say it should really work as both, or it should have the ability to have a good strategy to it.
Got it. All righty. Now, 2 minutes. Look into the camera and tell them how they can stay in contact with Madeline.
Yes. So on Instagram, TikTok, Madeline Duarte, and then you can follow me on Maddivation. So Maddie, MADDIEVATION. I'm a big motivator, and I try to utilize the tools and assets that I have to motivate the people around me. And real estate is one. So you guys can reach out to me anytime. I am happy to help. I'm happy to talk through things, walk through things. So my phone number, that's it there. And then
the email address is up there too.
Okay, good. I was gonna say my email. Yeah. And the best way always to reach me is gonna be the number or the Instagram. And you guys can check out some of my videos on real estate and see some closing photos, so that way you guys can be next.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. My phone number is 401-481-7357. And then my email is Madeline, Madelynn, 2 N's, .duarte, DUARTE, @remax.net.
And if y'all here, y'all can talk. We can talk after. But
Yeah.
for those on TV, and they got it up there. So, you guys give it up for Madeline.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, great time. Well, that concludes our show for tonight. Hopefully, you've gotten a lot of information from Madeline. She dropped a bunch of nuggets. July's, I think, matter of fact, we're taking July off. We'll pick this up back in August. I think there should be one more slide that Darwin has about the Get Started in Real Estate course. If you're interested in that, we developed that some time ago. It's $197, and that should be up on your screen somewhere. So without further ado, yeah, it is, yeah. Get Started in Real Estate, QR code ain't even on there, but go to dexterbjenkins.com and you can pick that up if that is of interest to you, because I always say you got to get started in order to have good success. All right, have a good night. All right, they're gone now. We really can talk. Yeah, the real question for Madeline. That's TV question.
What is the housing market at now? Because I know when I first started looking, I was looking at determined, but I noticed the market has gone up. Yeah. And I read an article